I am surprised, Jonas. I'm not surprised that he would do something outside the box since his days as a assistant to Billy Beane in Oakland, pioneering or helping to pioneer some of the analysis they did there. He's been somebody who's been unafraid to do things differently. But in terms of him leaving Sandy Alderson and the Mets, yeah, I'm surprised. And in the wake of the news, I checked in with a couple of people who were close with him in the organization. One person answered immediately that they were shocked. And another person said, yeah, we kind of knew it was in the works, but we kind of didn't. So sounds like some were really taken aback. Some might have known there was a little bit going on, but definitely not just among us in the media, but within the organization, there were some pretty high-up folks that were like, whoa, okay.
You obviously know DePodesta well. How surprised are you just that he would have an ambition in a different sport?
Not too surprised. He's a guy who has a varied background. He obviously is an Ivy League guy. You look at somebody who's just an intellectually curious person like Billy Beane, who is one of his mentors. Billy Beane's become really involved in European soccer, and to the point where he's speculated that he might want to dive all the way into that at some point in his career. So, these are just human beings who have all kinds of different interests, and I can see it. The only thing that surprises me a little is what some people didn't know about DePodesta is how much he loved physically scouting baseball players. He's a guy who was most comfortable probably at a minor league game by himself in the stands scouting, and obviously he's not going to be doing that anymore.
How much will the Mets miss him?
They'll miss him. He's a smart guy. Alderson will miss him. Obviously, this is a time when, because of his health, Sandy's taken a little bit of a step back, temporarily at least. And DePodesta is a really trusted confidant there. So they will miss his brain power, and they'll replace him. There's plenty of talent out there in the game, but they will miss him.
Who would take over his duties? Do you have any sense? Obviously, this is very early on. This has sort of been sprung on everybody, although you did acknowledge that some in the organization may have seen this coming. Who would take on his responsibilities? Any idea?
No, we don't know that yet. They could promote a guy named Tom Canis is right under DePodesta in terms of overseeing the draft and the amateur scouting. He could be a candidate. I would mention Dick Scott, who was a high up in the front office, involved in some of the same stuff with the farm system. But Dick Scott, of course, now becomes a bench coach and could be a manager in waiting after Terry Collins. So I think that'll be something that we'll be looking after over the next couple minutes, hours, days. Who knows what they might have someone in place. This is all developing. Yeah,
and as it's developing, I'm asking you to speculate here. Any sense does this change the power structure? Obviously, J.P. Ricciardi's a guy. John Ricco are guys who have very strong voices in the room when it comes to whatever decision Sandy Alderson makes. Does DePodesta's departure give one of them more power? How does that all work?
Well, we'll see how it shakes out, but both John Ricco and J.P. Ricciardi are guys who have strong relationships with Alderson anyway. I doubt this affects how they are seen by Sandy. They're respected. They have strong voices, as you said, Jonas. Clearly, you just have one less voice in the room, but oftentimes those guys were running their own ships from their very, DePodesta always has lived in San Diego. Ricciardi lives in Massachusetts. Rico's out of the office in New York. So it takes away a voice, but I don't think it really shifts what those other guys necessarily say or do.
Andy, you have been primarily a baseball writer for the newspaper, not a football writer. But I'm still going to ask you, and obviously this is a head-scratcher if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, what skills DePodesta would have that would actually serve him well, in your mind, in his new role, even though we don't exactly know what he's going to be doing, but just strategically, how will his skills serve him well in that role in Cleveland?
Well, he's a human being with a brain, so he can't make the Browns any worse than they've been for decades, right? I mean, you're talking about taking something over at rock bottom. He's an intellectually curious, intelligent person who is more interested in traditional aspects of sports and scouting and everything like that than people give him credit for. And he has an analytical mind, too. So I think that he's somebody who would be flexible to a skill set in business, other sports, really anything. His weaknesses are probably communication. People who have worked with him say that he's more comfortable maybe with email than one-on-one conversation. But intellectually and brain power-wise, I think he's capable of working in just about any field.
Andy, we appreciate the information. We'll speak to you soon.
All right, Jonas, thanks.
All right. Senior writer for the Daily News, Andy Martino. The Mets have issued a couple of statements on Paul DePodesta's departure to the Cleveland Browns. He will become again the Browns' chief strategy officer. Let's begin with Sandy Alderson's statement. Of course, the Mets general manager says, quote, Paul completely reorganized the Mets scouting and player development functions and had an extraordinary impact in both areas. But he was also very directly involved in our trade and free agent acquisitions. His commitment to excellence and his passion for innovation will be missed by the Mets and all of baseball. I wish him well with the Browns. Jeff Wilpon also issuing a statement saying, quote, working with Sandy, Paul put in a process, a new approach toward player development throughout our organization. Ownership and all of us at the Mets thank Paul for his tireless efforts. We look forward to seeing Paul's continued success with the Browns.